I must say, even with COVID, it has changed a lot of family dynamics where we mostly at home all the time together. We more or less do together.
Yeah, yeah. No, COVID has been a blessing in disguise for families.
Yes,
we got to
definitely.
spend we got to spend a lot of time with our families, which is very good. Something positive that we can take out of this stressful time. And
Yes.
talking about COVID as well, we will touch on that later on. And now, for you deciding to go alone, and start your own business. Just maybe briefly tell us about that journey as well. What was
Okay.
it that inspired you that you were ready now to just go on your own?
Okay. I was ready from the time I started working. My first business idea, which was even supported by government at that time, I wanted to have a school for people with disabilities. I must say the person who made me to think twice was a businessman, late Mr. Tozamile Mkhwetyana, which he was very close to me at the time, and in terms of saying to me, start working first, understand policies, understand everything. He even said, if you go to an institution, go as so I had a target when I started working that in 20 years I will be out of the working environment, which is
And you did that. You
yes,
did exactly that.
in record time, and I think
Wow.
also what also maybe was a bit difficult for me, I moved a bit quicker than my plans because I think around 35 I had sort of achieved everything that I thought I would achieve for that working period, and it took me and some energy to think now, how do I convert my energy. Hence, from there, I could take national projects, multiple national projects I was running. I could do a lot of events that empowered women within the sector where I was. There's lots of things that people normally remind me, some of them I've forgotten, but for me, it was then changing from being a worker to have an impactful life to others, especially in the engineering and disability space.
Wow, that's a great story. And you ended up giving birth to your business now. How many
Yes.
people? How many people do you maybe employ? Sorry, if I may ask.
Okay. I have one person that I employ, but per project, currently we have, I think, about 40 guys on site. Project for project, because the engineers, as you know, it costs for a salary for an engineer an X amount. We're not yet there, but with the projects that we do, we're hoping that at some point we will be able to have in-house engineers, but we contract them as and when required.
And also, how are you able maybe to capacitate other women through those projects? Do you have maybe a program that you also run just to make sure that you also impart the experience to them?
Okay, so what I do, mainly I focus on people with disabilities. So
Wow.
we sort of do capacity building, and also some of them I get them to subcontract. In also in the project, I make sure that the employed that I have in disability in each and every project. So is to sustain them. So once I start with some, so my KPI, for example, for saying I'm done with this person is when they get a VAT number. That means they've got a turnover of R1 million. I think two or that they're busy registering their VAT number. So for me, that's a milestone. but still will be supporting going forward.
That's quite a huge milestone. That's inspiring. That's very big, Sister. Keep on doing that. Keep on imparting to others, because that's what I'm all about as well. I developed this platform to sort of touch on the Black businesses and their influence to the society out there, which is why even the theme, if you saw it, is talking to social change, because I believe that we are going to have to stand up and change the issues of our society. No one is going to do it for us. So we've got the will, we've got the resources, even if they are still limited. I understand that we are not there yet, but I believe that we can still do it within our own space with what we currently have. And also just your own ideas now when it comes to that issue of social change. What do you think? How can we involve more women to make sure that they also contribute and influence the society that we live in? Because I believe that one of my opinions is that I believe that women as mothers, women as sisters, women as they play more business opportunities and investment opportunities. We can be able to do more, because by nature it is in us. No woman can watch, for instance, a neighbor going to bed without food. That's just a little example. No woman can watch a child going to school without shoes. No woman can watch the society collapsing, without doing anything. So it is something that is embedded in done to make sure that we influence more more interest around, to make sure that we change the issues of our.
Okay, from my own perspective, there's lots of women that are doing good. I think what we're missing as women, we are afraid to showcase what we do, and we also not networking properly to actually support each other in an ecosystem. So if a woman is doing X, then she wants to be the only one who's doing X. She doesn't want anyone else in that space. Whereas men can distribute and say, in South Africa, handle Gauteng, the other one handles Free State, and the other one, they collect each other, especially when it's something valuable. So we're missing that as women. There's quite a lot. I'm in big networks. For example, I was just nominated, I think last week, to be part of We Connect Business Enterprise Advisory Committee member. So there, what thank you. So what we do there, we meet with all these corporates like your Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Nedbank, the senior leadership of those, ABSA. I'm just thinking of the few, but there's a number of corporates that we talk to. And the idea there is to help women get business, especially if they have something to offer, obviously, get them to in contact with those procurement managers and be able to pitch, for example, what they have. Let's say they've got an innovative idea and they've been trying to knock in these corporates. So we make it easy for them. So on the other side, from woman perspective, our government, I think they've taken this and given women an opportunity to be ministers as well. We're sitting at around close to 50% in parliament, women. And I think it's just for us to get together. There's brilliant women I've met, my business partners. I've met other women that I'm in their network. Some have been referred to me. I know someone else who was just referred this week. I had a chat with a brilliant woman. So we just need to have those networks and move things together forward. Because if I'm doing it as Nomthandazo Mpande only, it's not going to be as effective if we are doing it either here in Africa together or across the continent.
No, that's true. Eventually, we need to see results. We need to start seeing results, as much as when it comes to women taking up space in these areas, we are not there yet. We are still very,
Yeah.
very far. But the few women that we have, we have to make sure that we see results. We have to make sure that they don't end up in situations where we actually cannot even account for what they have done. So every opportunity that we take, we should use it usefully, and we should make sure that we actually influence those that are around us. I like the idea that most women, they normally say that if they bring you to a table, make sure you bring the others. Don't
Yes.
enjoy being alone in that table. Gone are the days where you are the only woman sitting at this or doing this. It's time
Yes.
that once you are the only woman, you are just stepping in for others. So it's your
Mm.
opportunity now to bring, and that is how we can influence social change. We can influence if we bring the others, bring the women from the village, we bring because the women from the village actually they rely on us to open these
Yes.
doors for them. Those women can work, they
Yes.
can do the work, they can do the
Yes.
work. We have to make sure that we find a way to collaborate with them and say and change the society that we live in, which gives me which takes me to my next point that
Okay.
I
Do you mind just adding on what you're sharing now?
yes.
I've met a couple of other powerful women, and what they also highlighting is that when they are in a position of power, there's nobody who comes up and say, "Have you thought of? Have you thought of?" Because one of them just said to me at the time when I was sharing an idea that he could implement in her department was that you know what, I can't think of everything, but when you have people like you who would come and say, have you thought of implementing 1 2 3, which will bring, and you give the outcomes of your thoughts, and if they see them, I know some of the programs that have been implemented in government nationally, for example, that we triggered the thought and they obviously ran with it. But for me, it's also not about us getting money all the time. It's about what impact do we have to the next person, to the next one, to the next person in the country.
And that is how we're going to build the legacy of African women, is that it's no longer about you, it's no longer about you and your family, but it's about the entire community, about the entire village, the entire country, and at the end of the day, the entire African continent.
Yes.
And if we can have that mindset, I believe that we can go far, because that could even limit the small businesses that start like mushrooms and fall apart again. It's because sometimes we lack that vision that is seeing the future, the vision that is not about you, the vision that is looking after the entire community.
Yeah.
But I believe that we have to start somewhere, because our people are not there yet. We are surviving. You see that businesses, they people start businesses to survive most of the time, to earn money, to earn some money, so that they can be able to send their children to school, they can be able to pay their bills. But we need to move beyond that, because that's what makes our businesses fail. That's what makes even the ideas that we have not to be sustainable, because they are only for now. So we need to
Yes.
move beyond that and start thinking bigger. And our vision has to be about the entire continent, not only yourself and your people.
Yes. I think with the Africa Trade Agreement that is has been in effect as of last month, we're looking at the continent. We've started clubbing as women from different countries already.
Wow.
I think I'm in 2 or 3 groups, different groups, but looking at different things. But the idea is that with the plans that we have, we need to find ways of financing some of them so that we can be able to give back to those, especially in the rural development space. I think I've got a couple of documents on my computer where there's plans, and they just need to be activated, because I know once people are able to see the money in it, then they will do the work.
And also
And
mentoring. In terms of mentoring programs, do these networks offer any mentoring? And maybe you yourself, have you had any mentors that mentored you on your journey to be where you are today?
From my side, I think it becomes a mentor for the right time, for the right reasons at that time. So I don't have like a permanent somebody that I've gone with from my youth to now. So
Yeah.
I always meet relevant people at the right time. So I believe in God's time and God's timing, which makes then things possible for me to go to the next level of where I'm going. So I would say even in the workplace when I was working, there were men who would even step up on their own and sort of support what you do, not not in your presence only, and even in your absence, you will just maybe have feedback from other people to say so and so stood up for you, and in a specific meeting that you were not even there. So it's those things that and people were able to say, there's risk ABCD in what you're doing. And if I've thought of that and I'm saying I will continue, and I know those risks and I've mitigated them, and I know what to do when those risks come. So it's just those people who would activate the thinking, and even I must be honest, even the unions at that time, they used to come and sort of be supportive. You don't get that mainly in terms of management and unions talking together in harmony. But I think I never had those challenges, because they knew what we were doing was to help and advance the employees.
Wow. And also the issue of you, when I was reading your profile, I was also excited that you touch on on your involvement and how you try to implement sustainable development goals through your company.
Yes.
Which becomes very important, because if you look at the sustainable development goals, they touch on a number of issues that affect our society, which I find that it becomes imperative that our black businesses, they also try to adopt those that they can be able to implement. What do you think? What do you think about that concept in terms of black businesses, to ensure that they don't only serve the owner, they also able to make to sustain the environment that we live in, and also we spoke a lot about the social issues, but in terms of the environment that we live in, what do you think the black businesses can contribute when it comes to
Okay.
environmental protection?
Okay. From what we have been involved in is to get business people. I will talk about the environmental leg, together to form a civil society. That means an association, so that then, for example, the waste pickers and the buyback centers, and they are under one association, and now we helping them to formalize that business in terms of making sure that there is an impact on the environment, the water, the landfill sites, and also sustainability, where then all those women that are there, plus the youth, then they are able to make substantial money, not necessarily the 2 rands that they get when they go and sell a bottle. So now we had a proposal which is almost funded now for the factory, that those people will be, it will be a social enterprise where they take their things to their own factory, and then the business that is there is sustainable for them. Yeah, and then there's other civil society organizations that I'm part of. I won't mention all of them, but that's the angle that I'm using now to collect people of same interest to do something that is sustainable, because we know there's no one who's got 200 million rand to have a factory now. But if you come as a collective, as businesses, you can then be funded as a collective and then have that factory. Then you have control over what you do and what you produce, and you can even at some point have influence on price of the products that you're selling.
Yeah, yeah. And also that you are not only solving the environmental issue, you are also you are also contributing to job creation.
Yes, definitely.
Which that factory now will employ some of these people from the villages, and in the long term, you are contributing to the economic growth of the country at the end of the day, which becomes very important for Black businesses as well, to play in that space, to make sure that they also contribute.
Yeah, and also skills development, because then the training that has started is just the basics, but we're gonna get people to understand the engineering part, how machinery is manufactured and maintenance, and so there's quite a lot. It's the whole value chain that we're looking at, than to look at one portion of the value chain, the entry level of the value chain. So that for me is sustainability. I'm also looking at the automobile sector as well, automotive sector as well. We've started, but I'm sure in the long run we'll be able to have results where we're looking at all those township mechanics, but fortunately I've seen government as well is doing something to support them. So for us, we come in then for sustainability reasons. How do we then sustain those companies? How do we sustain those people? How do we make them grow? How do we make them professional in terms of their working space? We also looking at designing a proper working space for them. So there's quite a lot of things. I'm probably between sectors. I think that's one thing I appreciate when I left the business that I was working for. After I've left, I'm able to tap everywhere. I'm not restricted. We're even looking at town development. There's towns in rural areas that are dead and they've got a huge potential. We've managed to get some of the officials to buy into the developments of those towns. I can't mention them now because it's still on discussions, but as soon as those towns pick up, then you're gonna be able to see the people in Joburg going back to Eastern Cape. Okay, my main focus for now is Eastern Cape. And everything that I do, I try and make sure that we're going back towards making sure that we're not number last in the economic scale. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's always this complaint that goes around that professionals, they've left Eastern Cape for Joburg. They develop the economy of Johannesburg and they leave Eastern Cape. What's your view on that point?
For me, Eastern Cape is a bit slow in terms of doing things. They do have ideas, but the implementation is a bit slow. I think I couldn't handle the 1 year that I was there. It was one of the reasons that made me to say this is the right time for me to leave, because even though you bringing, I'm aware of investors that came. I've sat with them. They came with money and they had to go back to other provinces. Some of them are sitting here in Mpumalanga next to me, and I know they're saying, we've got the money, we want to start XYZ, which maybe some of them I can't say whatever they want to start, but because Eastern Cape is very slow in terms of moving, those investors moved out of Eastern Cape.
Even decision making becomes a challenge, and the mindset to start with, because if you come with that concept of sustainability as well, you're going to get a backlash, because nobody wants to understand all about. Everybody at this time is just looking at doing things for now and not doing things for the future, which is what we are all about. We have to start for the future, because when we're no longer here, how are we going to be remembered? How are we going to remember Usistandi, the work that we have done? So what you are doing is to make sure that your work, it becomes a legacy for generations to come.
Yes, yeah. I think what I normally call the people I associate with, I call it politics of the stomach. So in Eastern Cape, we focus on that. I must say, people there are very brilliant, and it's only that I wish we can divert that into action, into innovation, into looking at things differently, not looking at how things were done, and be collaborative when we do things. I think if with that we could move very quick to build Eastern Cape and make it an economic hub. It's very quick with all the other anchor projects that are already there. There's Lusanda IDZ, there's Ngukha, there's other plans that I've looked at in the province. They just need to be executed. That's all. The plans are there. I've seen them with my naked eye. Hence, I'm able to go and talk to somebody else and say, don't you want to go to Eastern Cape? And also what I've witnessed is that once you say you're bringing in investor, people are very impatient. They want to see the money. They don't want the work before the money. That's one of the things that I see as a stumbling block for us going forward. We don't want to go step by step and make sure that each and everything is done properly for